What is happening? Welcome to another Fireside chat. My name is Nick Pollack, and after we went our separate ways for a week, we were out in the cold, we were battling this world. We are back by the fire, of course, with Paul Sporer. Paul, good to see you.
Nick, it's great to see you as well. How was your trip out west? You went way
It-
out west to interact with some of our friends, including my other podcast co-host, Justin Mason.
we missed you. Also, Saurus
Would
was
have
there as
loved to have been
well,
out there. Yeah.
and it just
Out
felt empty
there.
a little bit without you. But thank you all so much, everyone, coming to the garage at a great live podcast of the craft. Caught a game. It's nice out there. It's very nice. Actually, funny story, not really funny. I think you might have heard, I know this is cross sports, but you might have heard about this shooting that happened to a
Right.
player
Part of the
literally
Niners.
1 block away from my hotel.
Wow.
It happened. Yeah, I was away in off hiking that Saturday, but yeah, I was there at that
Thankfully, he's
point.
going to be okay, Ricky Pearsall, but my goodness,
Yeah.
terrifying, right? Just
I think actually
absolutely terrifying.
Danielle, Justin, and I were exactly in that place 24 hours prior. Unreal.
That's really scary.
Something else. But hey, everyone, we're going to talk today about your playoffs because this is really what matters most for head-to-head leagues. Also in Roto, if you're looking to find those points down the wire,
Right?
the game completely changes in September. And there are a lot of players that we've been rolling with the entire season. I've certainly had higher on my list because I don't really focus on schedule, at least in the first half of my rankings. That is more just generic rest of season. The back half is more about week to week. Now all of it is week to week, where you're going to have guys that I generally would be in on and saying you need to hold on to that you don't necessarily need to hold on to. And we want to go over all of those today. Spore, I mean, I'm sure you've made some tough moves yourself already.
Absolutely. I mean, because there are some tough decisions to be made, and you are literally just going off of your standings right now in Roto and in head-to-head, of course, trying to beat your single week matchup. You can't get too hung up on what guys have done. You're focused on what can they do, what have they done for you lately, and what can they do for you this past week.
That's right.
I'm taking a lot less consideration of the full season. Full season, maybe I'm not even starting somebody like Bowden Francis if I'm looking at those numbers. But of course, you zoom in on what he's been doing lately. He's one of the best pitchers going lately. Maybe a bad example because he's been so good. He's actually lowered his full season numbers, but he was dreadful to begin the year. But yeah, there's so much. It is a completely different game. Now, real baseball used to be a completely different game when they would have 40-man expansion rosters. They thankfully got rid of that quite some time ago because it was a total joke and I think
Yeah.
completely ruined September baseball. So now it's not as goofy, but still the fantasy game gets played differently because you are so narrowly focused on the here and now. Bombs hurt more because you have less time to make them up. So I
Sure.
will, try to go for some floor at times too. So a lot of different dynamics. We're going to get into some of the best players. And of course, the list over at Pitcher List changes to where you focus on the schedule too, because you're not as focused schedule wise in season, right? Bet on the talent. Worry about the schedule
Right. Yep.
as the dust settles. Totally agree with that. But now we're picking on the White Sox as much as we can. We're picking on the Rays. We're trying to avoid the Yankees. We're trying to avoid the Dodgers. So a lot of those machinations are schedule based, and we'll get into some of the best pitchers to use and maybe some that you're a little bit more scared of than you were just 2 weeks ago, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will also mention that the list is also used for trades a lot. And
Right.
once trade deadlines pass, there's a whole selection of guys that just won't be dropped. So there's no real reason for me to rank them. And if they're in the same tier, if you're just going to start them, then who knows? I'm going to shrug my shoulders. I'll answer the question on my live stream who I would rather go for. But me nitpicking this guy versus that when they have all these fluctuations of schedules, it's just not worthwhile. And the most helpful thing we can do is just look at, hey, these are the clumps of guys with really good schedules that benefit or who benefit from it. You can really plan week to week because you should not be planning for a full month now. You should be planning
Right.
week to week as much as possible. So yeah, we're going to look at all that stuff today. And I really wanted to start with the higher end guys who you might have more trepidation on because of their tough schedule. Some names that come to mind quickly for me are, say, Shane Baz, who has to go against the Orioles and the Guardians later this week, but it does open up with a good schedule later on. Are you okay starting Baz in your 12 teamers against Baltimore and Cleveland? Would you be suggesting moving on from him for something else?
I am kind of moving on now. I will come in and be clear that my bias was against him this year. He's always been more of a 2025 guy for me. He has looked better of late, but this is where I'm talking about where the bombs scare me. Now, the one thing with Boz specifically in Tampa Bay is that I think he'll be protected from a bomb unless it's like a 2-inning one that you just can't
Oh,
avoid.
sure. Right.
But
You
if
won't
he's
have a
got a
9-yard
bad
run.
couple
Yeah.
innings, they're going to yoink him. So I
Right.
do like that aspect of it. And I do think in a lot of 12s, you're still looking at more yes than no, but I'm more on like that 52-48 with Boz. So maybe a little bit more interested than I thought. And as I'm looking at the game log here, these last 3 have been nice, 2 of which have been great opponents, Houston and San Diego. The other is Oakland, and they're not easy from a pitcher standpoint. Like going up against them is tough. Hitting against them is easier. So he's done well. I will lean yes, but it is looking for an out. I'd really rather not if I have more stable guys than Shane Boz personally.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I have him in the solid tier, and looking now, I feel like I should have put him in the Tobies and Bombs, just because it is a little bit more ridiculous and uh, and chaotic than I want it to be. The secondaries have looked better, which is the nice thing about Shane Boz, is that the curve and or slider show up in a given day, sometimes both,
Right.
which can be great. But yeah, that Baltimore one, I mean, it is in Baltimore, and the Orioles lineup hasn't been so great.
That's
Actually,
also
yesterday
true.
was amazing. So who knows? That's a tough call there. A couple others I just wanted to get your 2 cents on. I mean, you have the reverse side of it, like Bryce Miller in the short term. He's at St. Louis, which by the way on the road is always worse than versus Texas. But then it's hosting the Yankees and going against Houston. And when the guy like Bryce Miller throughout the entire year, you just kind of set and forget. Is this the kind of guy that you're going to look at 2 starts and go, you know what, I'm ready to move on from that, and I'm planning for middle of September to move on and get something else?
So it is one of those situations with Bryce Miller where my team situation is really going to be dependent here because you are concerned that the lack of offensive support could hurt the win probability too. So what are you actually going for here? Are you going for ratios, strikeouts, and wins in that order? Bryce Miller becomes more in focus. If
Sure.
it's wins, strikeouts, ratios, I think somebody like Bryce Miller takes a big hit there because, he's not delivering the win. 10 wins this year, great. But when you're betting on an individual game, you don't feel good about Seattle's offense ever.
Sure. Yeah.
And he's not a huge K guy. He can spike up for a big 10. Like I think he had 10 against the Rays recently, but he's 147 in 155 innings. So this is another one where it's like, I'm more in the 58-42 camp on someone like Bryce Miller, where I am leaning yes, but team context can really get me away from him. Whereas, like you pointed out at the outset with Bryce Miller, he was a set and forget. That is no longer the case. You need to investigate. You need to match it up against your rankings, your roto standings, and your head-to-head matchup. Because if you need wins, this is not the guy you're looking for because of Seattle's wretched offense.
Yeah, it's tough because Bryce Miller has actually improved a bit with his secondaries. It actually is something that he's focusing on, and I love that. I love it for 2025, though. And I don't think that Bryce Miller has figured out the entire arsenal quite yet. So, yeah, I'm probably moving on to that second part of it. But, I mean, that's really the joy of this, is that we can really start to pick this apart. Obviously, this is going to be completely different in like a few days. I already have to change Darvish and Justin Steele, and then
that's the tough part
and all
too.
this stuff. And it's hard to get exactly the right games. But for the Mariners, it's easy because it's just those 5 dudes.
Yep.
And they haven't really changed that. They have no reason to.
When healthy, it's those 5 locked and loaded. Agreed.
Absolutely. So looking at a few others that might be a little bit more contentious. You have in your 15s, I have this whole Tobies and Bombs start here. And honestly, a lot of these Tobies are pretty much, you can't afford not to start them.
In 15,
but
yeah.
It's really difficult. For example, you have Jameson Taillon right now, who just looked as good as we've seen. His barking backfield looked like he was totally fine with that. But he has to get the Yankees now. They go into Coors, and then it's the Nationals and the Phillies. And are you trying to fill that in with a stream each week, or are you holding on to Jameson Taillon through this?
Gosh, that's a
Yeah, right?
really tough one. He's throwing some good ball, like you said. Really cooked his former friends there in Pittsburgh, or excuse me, at home against Pittsburgh yesterday with 7 scoreless. After they hit him up a little bit in Pittsburgh, 6 2/3, 4 runs there. Nothing crazy, but not a great outing. I I don't feel comfortable here. I really, really
Mhm.
don't. I don't feel good about the Yankees start this weekend. I don't really want to take anyone into Coors. What did I say at the outset? I'm trying to avoid bombs. I'm trying to build a
Yeah.
stable floor here the best I can. And when you're trying to do that process over results, the process says back off of this because then he gets Washington, Jameson Taillon does in the third start. That could be useful. But then at Philly, and I know second half Philly has not been first half Philly, but do you really feel comfortable going into Philly with somebody like Taillon who
Absolutely.
does not miss bats? So no, I think he's cuttable even in some 15s if the right guy is up on the wire. Now that's usually the big caveat if somebody's available, but these last 4 to 6 weeks in 15s have had pretty plentiful waiver wires after a real dearth in that
Mhm.
early summer, Nick, where you couldn't find anything that you wanted. We have now been putting up 3, 4, 5, 6 guys per week, couple on offense, couple on pitching that you do want to go for. So I think I'm leaning away from Tyon here, and I've been giving these kind of percentages. I'm like 42 start, 58 pass on
Mm.
Tyon, even in 15s with these matchups. Too scary
N
with the contact he allows.
I think it's also a little too volatile with his health.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a lot to be said about a pitcher feeling really good on a given day, and I always remember about David Cohn saying that, he'd call the pitchers a Mr. Perfect. That is, he's so good when he feels great, but then if he has any problems, it falls apart,
Right.
and
Cannot adjust to being off a
and
little
not
bit.
to say that Tyon is that, but it's something that has resonated with me for a while, and right, a lot of these pitchers are not pitching at their full capacity.
Right.
And I feel like Tyone has dealt with that a lot this year, so I'm probably going to be moving on there. I have a more interesting one here. Ryan Pepio. So it's at Baltimore, at Cleveland, Toronto, and then at Boston. And his last start did not come with a good changeup. The main thing about Pepio for me is that's a really good four seamer. And as long as one of the other two, the slider and the changeup, and sometimes it's both, if they're there, then he's going to cruise here. You can go 5 innings, 9 Ks, 1 earned run, bliss. But this is a tough schedule ahead. He did not look good in his last one. What are you doing with Pepio? Is it too risky for you here?
You know where the risk really comes from is the team context. I mentioned that
Mm,
they would protect Boz from, potential real meltdown situation unless it happened in like 1 inning before they could really get him out. Um, Pepia, we know that they play, I don't want to say play games because I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to protect their pitchers and be smart about when they exert them and not, et cetera, et cetera. And we've seen a couple injuries from Pepio this year. He's come back, been mostly strong, except for that recent start against San Diego when he had 4 walks. 2 walks in each of the previous two. So we've seen 8 walks now in the last three. A little bit off there with 4 homers as well. So the command and control doesn't look like it's at Pepio's best. They're going nowhere. My concern is shortened outings followed by a premature shutdown. So I have some grave
mm,
concerns about Pepio that aren't even fully related to his talent. If they gave us the all clear, then I would confidently start him at Baltimore, at Cleveland, home to Toronto, and at Boston. As difficult as that lineup is, I do not trust Tampa Bay. You need to have outs with Pepio, meaning you need to have somebody ready to go in. If you're going to keep him on the roster as a team streamer, always have somebody ready to go in case they pull the plug early, which I do think they could do maybe as early as the Toronto start, where you don't even get the best of this 4 pack here. They pull him after the next two and say, okay, he put up a good
yeah.
season. We've gotten enough innings. It's it
107 right now. So that would be around 115 or so, 120. You're
big jump
flirting
off
with
of
there.
last year.
Yeah.
After 70 last year, about
Mhm.
between majors and minors. So I think it's not quite a doubling. They probably would have wanted more overall, but again, if those concerns that I brought up about the command, if those are legit right now with the homers and the walks, I think that gives more reason for them to shut down Pepio. So I'm being very cautious here. I'm nervous. I don't want to cut him prematurely, but I gotta have somebody on the roster that can always
Sure.
slot in for him with some confidence.
So I'm in a league, 12-teamer with only 4 roster moves a week.
Okay.
And I noticed that my opponent already used 2 of them. And when planning out the week, I realized that I could probably just sneak in a few extra streams than he could. However, I didn't have anyone to drop, and my worst pitcher was Ryan Pepio.
Wow,
And
that's a great staff, by the way, that he's your
and
worst pitcher.
well, I mean, it was really the worst situation. if he was going against a good matchup, I wouldn't do it, but it's against the Orioles this week, and then it's at Cleveland. And with that kind of haze, I say, all right, fine. I'm going to drop Pepio, and believe it or not, I dropped Pepio and picked up, what's it, Cade Horton? No, my gosh,
Cade
Povich.
Horton. Oh yeah, I was gonna say Cade Horton's a real player though.
Yeah, I was like, wait, that's not it.
Different prospect. Though.
Yeah. Povich against the White Sox. And it felt so weird to do that.
Right.
But that's the situation that we're in. I needed to get another win, or at least chase one this week without, I think, a terrible floor, with the White Sox on the other side. And I'm going to be switching out Povich later this week. I'm going Tuesday, then I'm going, I think, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, something along those lines. So do what you need to do is what I'm trying to get at here.
Yep.
Pepio is not, I'm very much about this week first. You'll figure it out later. You were just talking about a lot more streaming options. I mean, you see a guy like Andrew Heaney who has the Yankees this week, and then you have 4 amazing matchups, twice against the Angels, twice against the Mariners after that.
And he's been pitching well.
He was, and then he wasn't, and then he is. He's weird. He's weird. He's always been weird.
Because it's always homers. And that's just the quickest way to sink you, right? Like you're going well, and then the 3-run homer spoils an outing. So, like you said, the ups and downs with him, the bad finish to July started with 6 innings, 1 hit ball against Houston. Then he goes to New York and gets murked a little bit. Minnesota beats him up, and then 2 5-inning outings that have been good against Pittsburgh and the White Sox recently. So I obviously don't want him today. I think it's today against the Yankees for Heaney. But then the rest of that run, Angels, double Seattle, and then Angels again. One of the best streamers you can get. So I'd love Heaney as like my Pepio insurance.
Sure.
Slot him in on those weeks that maybe I'm not confident in Pepio, and then in case the plug gets pulled, I've got Seattle, and LA as the last 3 for Heaney that I could slot in for Pepio. So I think that's kind of an ideal. He's one of the better streamers that you can find out there in 12s, 10s, and maybe some 15s still, although he's been pitching well enough lately that he's probably not super available in 15.
Held there. I mean, I think Heaney is around 25 to 30% rostered at the moment, something like that. Albert Suarez is also around there too. He goes against the White Sox tomorrow. That is on Wednesday. So I guess today, if you're listening on the podcast and not watching live, what are you doing? We're live on YouTube, guys, every single Tuesday, 12:15 p.m. Eastern time. We're on Twitter, but really go to our YouTube channel. You can watch this podcast back as well. We're going to be adding props soon, which I can't wait. It's going to be a great time.
To them, it's only our second live one, so they're just getting used to the flow of it.
That is true. But what are you doing? Come join us over here.
Come join us.
And Albert Suarez does get the White Sox. He does get Fenway after, and you might see a lot of drops after this White Sox game, especially if he doesn't do well in it. But then he'll get the Giants and the Tigers after that. And I am actually really curious how the Orioles are going to set up their rotation for the playoffs.
Right.
Hopefully they get Grayson back. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that. Is he shut down fully? I don't know. Obviously,
they keep saying mid-September.
Corbin Burns in there too. And then what? Eflin. Okay.
But right. And Eflin pitching well.
And then who's the fourth is the biggest question. Is it Cade? Is it Suarez? Looks like it's kind of Suarez at the moment.
I think it should be Suarez. And then you go to Cade after him, right? You try to get 4 out of Suarez, 2 out of Cade, and then the bullpen. I think that's probably the best situation that they could look for there.
What a wild status for the Orioles. We have other guys we want to talk about, early streamers to do really this week, and then of course guys that we're going to be targeting later on. And absolutely, we're going to go over our games as it's neck and neck still here in September. We're going to do all that after this break. So we're back. Thank you so much for those who are live waiting so long for that one. We got to talk about DJ Hers. This week it's the Pirates and it's the Marlins. And this is a pitcher who, when he has his changeup working, we can see the upside. He actually has had maybe 1 or 2 games where the changeup hasn't been so great, but the fastball just did so much that it worked out. Do you feel confident in these two with DJ Harris? I know in 15s you kind of have to do it.
Right.
But if you were in 12s here, would you be risking against DJ Harris against the Pirates and Miami?
I would, in a good number of scenarios. Do I feel confident is a different question whether or not I would start him, just because the volatile nature of a pitcher like this. Anytime you're bringing me somebody that trends around that 10% walk rate. Now he's under it. He's at 9% right now. But when he's off, that's when the trouble comes with DJ Hers, and it often comes via the walks. And so when you're looking at these last few outings here, he's up to a 13% walk rate over his last 5. Now, schedule has not been friendly. San Francisco, Baltimore, Colorado, Atlanta, Cubs. Actually, it's mixed bag there. I'd say 3 up, 2 down in terms of difficulty there. Baltimore,
Very
Atlanta on the road. Cubs decent, and then Colorado, San Francisco, he should have handled maybe a little bit better than he did for either of them. I do think you have to take a shot on some guys though, right? And they're on the wire for a reason. So there's not going to be wartless guys out there. Hers is among the ones that I'm confident in, especially if I'm not chasing wins, because then I'm not so worried about Washington's shortcomings. Give me the Ks and the potential shot at some quality ratios. I do like hers a pretty good bit at Pittsburgh, home to Miami.
Yeah. So do you like hers against Pittsburgh more or less than Joey Estes and JP Sears getting Seattle? Right?
This is a wonderful question. It's a wonderful question. I think I go hers, Sears, Estes.
Are you sure?
No.
Because you feel, yeah, that was a
very much not.
This and a question mark. I'm going to give your own argument back to you. I'm going Estes first because I think he's the safest.
I think that's actually fair.
And you're talking about
as I'm digging into it,
messing you up the most.
Right.
JP Sears is also really interesting because his four-seamer has actually been located well. It's just the changeup wasn't really helping and nothing else was there last time. But the four-seamer has really led this run of his, and he gets the Mariners. And I feel as if Sears at least has been more consistent over the last 4 weeks than hers has been. So I'm going to go Estes.
You go
Sears.
double A's over hers. Okay.
Yeah. I'm doing that, but I don't know if I like it.
But that's only for this week, right?
You guys are debating with right now. I'd say if you're going ratios, you go Estes. If you're going strikeouts, you go Sears. And if you want a combination, you go hers.
I can co-sign that. And then if you're going longer term, you go hers above both because he's got the Miami, whereas both of them are slated to get Houston.
Correct. And they'll be available for the next matchups, and that might be Sears getting the White Sox on a Sunday, which would be very nice.
So then we jump on that.
The Mets in Citi Field, which that could go either way.
Right. I don't love it, but I don't hate it type of vibe.
Yeah. We got an interesting question here from chats from Jack Neely. Thank you so much for watching our live stream on YouTube. Great stuff. So what do you do when you have starters play each other in the playoffs? I have Reagans and Ober facing each other in head-to-head playoffs. Well, first, before you answer, Sporer, I do want to mention later on in the show, we are going to talk about at least one of those guys. Correct. But in general, so we'll get your answer, Jack, later on in this. In general, how do you feel about that for head-to-head points? Because theoretically, you can't get 2 wins there. You might get a loss. It's a win.
And that does undercut you a little bit. But when you're talking about 2 top quality guys like Reagans and Ober specifically, if it's that kind of matchup, I think I still got to go with it because I don't know who's going to get me the win. So the worst case is you start one, hoping he gets the win. He gets smoked. The other guy dominates. So I start both in a lot of instances when it's 2 good guys, and I just hope to get a real good pitching duel. And I probably, for my own stomach, don't watch that game in September. But I'm actually one of the people, I like to sweat my stuff. A lot of people, they'll play like, I don't even watch any of it. Like, I like to get in, but that one could be a little bit nerve-wracking.
You got to watch it.
You have to.
Quality starts there as well for points leagues. So I think that's going to negate it too.
And you could get both then.
Right. But in general, let's say you have 2 going against each other. It's always, don't consider it. Think of it neutral, because if you start one or the other, then it might have been better for you to start the other one, whichever one you like more, and just look at the entirety of your pitching staff and just say, regardless if they're facing each other, do I like this start more than other ones if I'm choosing between them? Don't personally consider that they're going against each other. I know it's not good luck as far as capping your ceiling, but you're also raising your floor. And
agreed. And that's
the whole thing is just, don't think about it. In my view, it's really just independently if you want to start them or not. I'm going to throw another name. Actually, you know what? I'm not, because we're going to do another one. We're going to talk about him later. Tyler Anderson. This is an interesting one. Tyler Anderson has been coasting for a lot of us. This year's a very sneaky pickup. His changeup has been elite once again. The four-seamer elite vert upstairs. Cutters are working in the zone. However, lately, the command of the changeup has gone south a bit. And now he's got at Texas, Houston at Houston, and then versus Texas. Even in your 15s, do you feel you have to go with Tyler Anderson?
I have to. No, because again, if the wins are in the consideration, you're just not going to feel any confidence with that ball club. Mm-hmm. And the double Texas 2-step there, can be a little worrisome. I know Texas, the Rangers have not played up to their level. It's one of those teams that even as they don't, and maybe I'm being foolish, but I still always give them a little credit where I'm like, okay, I still don't want to just throw anybody against Texas. And Tyler Anderson's more than just an any old John off the internet, off the waiver wire. But I have some concern here. In 15s, I get there in some situations, but this feels risky. And again, if we're talking about protecting the floor, I don't think a volatile guy like Tyler Anderson does a good job of that because he allows a lot of contact, right? And that's the thing with the low strikeout guys is when they're off, it can just be a hit parade. So no, I have some real trepidation here, especially after he blew one to Seattle. And, you know, I'll give him a little pass for the one at Toronto because they've been playing brilliantly in August, but I can never give anyone a pass for not for getting murked by Seattle. That is just inexcusable.
Inexcusable. Oh man.
Inexcusable.
So yeah, what happened with Tyler Anderson against the Jays, the Royals, and I guess less so the Jays again, but they were hacking at fastballs upstairs. They just elected to whiff on changeups, fine, sell out for a fastball. And it happened for 2 straight starts. He then decided, haha, if I don't throw the fastball in the zone, then they can't sell out for it. But then he walked a lot of guys and was very inefficient against the Jays. And then the Mariners, I feel like, did the same thing. Actually, against the Mariners, he just could not locate four-seamers and cutters at all. And too many changeups were way down the pipe, and that was that. So really been disrupted as of late, Tyler Anderson. And it could be good against the Rangers, but I think in your 12-teamers, it's not there right now. And I wouldn't go after that. Now, 2 teammates that, oh boy, this is tough. Walker Buehler and Bobby Miller.
Oh my God. Yes.
With Bobby Miller, he mentioned in his last start that, hey, my knee is bothering me and has been for a while. Okay, that explains it a little bit. You get Bobby Miller against the Angels. You also get Walker Buehler against the Angels, who had at least a better approach, I think, last time with four-seamers and curveballs and cutters, but no sliders. Why not? I don't know. And it wasn't really a good game. It was whatever of a game. Both of these guys had this amazing matchup over the weekend. Both could not go 5 innings for that win. Are you starting them in 12-teamers? Or are you going to drop them for streamers instead? And 15-teamers, do you feel like you need to go for a streamer instead too?
I
know. I'm giving the hard ones today, but this is
exactly, and this is what we need though, because I'm a bit encouraged by the last 2 starts from Bobby Miller, and I know the Baltimore one wasn't as good, but of course that's degree of difficulty too. So smoking Tampa Bay, you don't get full credit, like oh my God, he's back, because Tampa Bay is Tampa Bay. But 9 Ks, no walks was nice. Then he goes to 3 Ks, 3 walks against Baltimore again with the degree of difficulty. Great on the curve there. I give him a little bit of love. This is the kind of risk I would take a shot on. I think it's more if I'm in chase mode, because the win potential is massive anytime you're dealing with the Dodgers
and Angels too.
And there's upside with the ratios and Ks, as we saw with the Tampa Bay game. Now, maybe he's only good against the crummy teams right now. That's okay. I'm not asking you to start him against a good team. Give me the Angels. Give me the Cubs. They're a mediocre team. For Miller, I take it. Yamamoto. Did you mention Buehler or Yamamoto?
Buehler. Yamamoto, we don't know what we're going to run.
We don't know what's going to go on with him. Okay.
Now, the whole Dodgers are a mess.
Total mess.
And the whole thing in March was like, we're going to make sure that we're all healthy for September.
Just in time for October, right. With Buehler, I have zero confidence, by the way. Not starting him anywhere. I have no interest in Buehler. Check back with me next year. Can't do it. He's not going 5 innings. He's not pitching well. There is no win potential unless they give him a. I mean, I shouldn't say there is no. He could go 5 and get it.
I mean, he almost went 5 in his last start.
Right, but that was the first time since what, June? Now, in fairness, he missed all of July.
And this is the Angels now, and then he stretched out more and getting more comfortable. Right. I
have very little confidence
this working all right. Not to mention the approach was better, but yeah, I mean, I have a ton of trepidation with that one too. With Bobby Miller in that Tampa Bay start, what bothered me so much is that he didn't have a slider. He threw 3 of them, and there were good sliders, and he just threw 3 of them.
Maybe just didn't have the feel. You
allowed
think?
a 2-run homer on a hanging changeup because he didn't decide to throw a slider. I'm like, what are you doing?
So what would be going on there? That like they ended up being executed well, but something coming off the finger.
Just didn't want to throw it. I don't know.
Okay,
it's just like that wasn't what he wanted to do. I have tried so much to understand the Dodgers, understand their approaches, understand their the whole direction of their pitching staff and why they do what they do.
Right.
And I don't anymore. I can't figure it out. So I don't know. maybe they were just like, Bobby Miller, don't worry about the wins or losses of this. You just got to work on your changeup this
Just
game.
pitch well, yeah.
But that makes no sense to me. So, and then you throw in the knee thing there too.
Did you ever have a situation where you threw a pitch a few times, it was executed, but you didn't feel comfortable with it, so you pulled it back, like you're saying with the slider here for Bobby Miller?
I understand that. Yes, a few times where like it came out right, like I threw a changeup a couple times that worked right, but like I don't have any faith.
But you didn't feel like you could repeat it, type of vibe.
But the thing is, Bobby Miller's slider is good, and it has been good before. This isn't like a brand new thing.
But I just wonder if there's a mental block there.
Second start against the Orioles, he trusted a little bit more.
And only allowed 2 hits. Like that game could have gone better. I didn't hate the Baltimore outing for Bobby Miller because I keyed in on that one after the Tampa Bay start to see how real this was. And like you're saying, some of the stuff was better, even though the results were worse. Again, I just have a lot more confidence in him than Buehler. Do you have a split between them, or are you like,
oh man,
open to both?
The problem I have here is that Biller's got the, I'm going to do that. Mobby Biller.
Wobby Biller. So it's Walker and Bobby. Wobby Biller.
Wobby Biller has a knee problem, and I wonder if that means he's not going to go long enough. And I would actually say right now that Buehler's going to go longer in his game than Wobby Biller. So, and Balker Mueller. Okay, I'm just stop doing this. So that's where I'm at with it. But I'll be honest with you, if I have both of them in my 12-teamer, I'm sending them out there. I don't think their floor is low. I think that's actually like they've been fine.
I might be a little scaredy cat down the stretch here. I will be open to that critique that maybe I'm being a little too cautious. I just personally haven't seen anything in Buehler lately to get excited. The Miller Tampa Bay good start, and then the quality stuff in pockets, at least against Baltimore, was enough to encourage me. And admittedly, I did not see the Buehler versus Baltimore start, which you said did have some quality elements.
Yeah. So we have limited time left, only about 10 minutes. So we got to move to games. We have two more guys I got to get your takes on for
I'll be quick.
Options, and we're gonna do all that after this break. Okay, Spore. So tonight's the game. All right. First and foremost, Alex Fast's broadcast is unbelievable. I cannot wait for that. If you are listening right now, go back and watch it on MLB.tv for Tuesday night. It's at 6:30 on Mass. And if you're watching live, seriously, guys, I'm so proud of this man and the fact that he sent me an email in 2016, and here he is going into the broadcast booth for an entire game to call an Orioles game his dream. I mean, it's so stupid cool. I cannot be more thrilled for that. But that's not the game I'm talking about. I'm talking about Patrick Corbin against the Miami Marlins.
I knew you were.
Are you doing it?
In 15s, I am taking the shot in a lot of scenarios. 12s, it has to be like the only guy. I think there's just going to be other options. And what did I say at the outset? I want to avoid the bombs. He can still crush you.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
If a 7 earned run outing ruins your season, you cannot start Corbin. If you can sustain that and still keep going in your quest to take down the title or whatever you're going for, I like it because it's 2 great matchups, and you're just not going to find much better for Corbin because doesn't he have Pittsburgh after that? Isn't it like Miami, Pittsburgh?
Does, and it's a 2-step this week, which makes it even more interesting for your 12-teamers if you had one move, right?
Right.
Oh,
so man. Yeah, I'm kind of in on it.
This is like the first time I've ever put him in a questionable tier all year, and it's like, let's go.
Let's do it. Let's run it.
Some other guys, by the way, I have in the early streamer tier. So if you're looking for more stuff this week, you have Bailey Falter and Luis Ortiz going either Tuesday and Saturday or Wednesday, and then Sunday, or actually next week. But you have a Colin Ray, you have David Festa's going today against the Rays and the Angels. That's a really fun one. David Peterson's on a heater. You want to go with that. Frankie Montes is up to 97 and trying to do the Blake Snell blueprint and gets Rocky Road and then the Giants. And I know the floor, or really the ceiling, isn't that high, but if you're in a quality start league, there is something to that. And at least like 5-6 innings of 2 runs or fewer, I can very much see that for Montes, at least in the Rocky Road game. Jose Quintana hasn't been pitching his peak, but whatever. It's the Reds away.
Right.
You also have Martin Perez, who didn't look that good in his last one. I'm so torn about this because the last 2 starts of Martin Perez have not been good. He had a good matchup, but didn't capitalize on it. But he gets the Tigers and the Giants. Are the Tigers bad against lefties? You would know. If not.
Well, here's the thing: you can't really judge them on the season stats because they completely revitalized their lineup. and it's just a different lineup than what we saw all year. So I would say that they're like still a team you can pick on with guys that you like. Like, don't run from them, but don't automatically assume you're getting early year. They now have a lineup of all under 30 somethings with some interesting prospects. They can clip you.
Yeah, Tyler McGill goes against the Red Sox and then the Jays, and honestly, that might be a really sneaky one because the Red Sox are on the road and they're terrible on the road. Osvaldo Bido also, he didn't have a good game yesterday, but he gets the Tigers and the White Sox, and that might be something you want to go and chase.
Right.
There's another guy I'm going to talk about later. So late streamers to consider: Griffin Canning and Jack Kohanowitz. The last two games are the White Sox.
Got to do it.
Kohanowitz is a sinker bowler, and he'll find 6 innings randomly, and it's so weird, and I kind of love it. It's a lost art. It's kind of cool. Kate Povich, as I mentioned, gets the White Sox now, but then also the Tigers later on.
Double Tigers potentially.
And then Lorenzen is going to return from the IL, and if he does do it in time, it'll be Pittsburgh first. If he misses that one, then it'll still be the Tigers, and then the Rangers. Sorry, the Nationals, which is nice. And his teammate Michael Wacha, who just had a good changeup yesterday against the Twins, which maybe not, but then it's the Pirates, the Giants, and then the Nationals, which I am here for. And Javier Assad may be fine after the Yankees and the Dodgers, where he'll be dropped. We'll get Oakland, the Nationals, and Reds possibly. So those are ones to consider later. But we got to talk about our games. And we missed last week. So where are we on the standings right now, Spore?
So we went 2-2. Last games that we did 2 weeks ago. We each hit our sit of the week with Taj Bradley and Luis Heel against the Dodgers and Guardians respectively. We both missed our streamers, Luis L. Ortiz and Carson Spears. They were against Cincy and Pittsburgh, but I don't think they went against each other.
No, I don't think so either.
Gavin Stone was a miss on Star of the Week. His one bad start recently against Tampa Bay. We both picked on Tampa Bay. I did hit Osvaldo Bido against them, and then you cooked me with Spencer Schwellenbach against Christopher Sanchez in the game of the week.
So, baby!
2 points apiece. I'm still up 136 to 35. Man. We got some interesting picks today, though. Let's start with our streamers. 20% or lower at Fantasy Pros. They got to score at least 10 points according to the DK register on the Baseball Reference game logs. So who's your guy today?
I mean, Mitchell Parker gets the Pirates and the Marlins. And I'm going against the Pirates game, of course. He's 17% rostered. Parker had 7 for 11 whiffs on a slider last time. I love that. I think that he's getting a little overlooked. He's been a Toby all year, really, and this is a perfect matchup in Pittsburgh. I'm here for that. Who's yours?
So I went with, I went with my guy, Louis Varland. I'm picking on Tampa Bay again. I am a little bit nervous about Varland, but again, Tampa Bay is a team that you can get all the time right now. They give up the Ks and win probability is good with Minnesota over Tampa Bay as well. What about Sid of the Week? 50% plus at Fantasy Pros. They got to score 10 points or fewer. We're both putting some guys out there that people are going to be like, wait, what? So go ahead and start with yours because I get it. And I almost did it, but he's been so golden lately. I'm just curious where your trepidation comes from.
Sounds crazy. He's 59% rostered. It's Bowden Francis. I know it's crazy. He's been so good and even took down the Red Sox in Fenway.
Right.
But I watched that game, and that Red Sox offense is not good. And he was throwing all these four-seamers over the plate and getting pop-ups with it. And yes, I understand IVB is high. It's at 18 inches. Sure. The splitter, everyone wants to talk about the splitter. And trust me, I've been watching this. Yes, the splitter has been good at times. It wasn't even in this game. And it's an inconsistent pitch. And now he has his real first good lineup. I know the Phillies have been worse, as you mentioned, in the second half. But this is in a lineup that is going to be able to hit that fastball. And if it's coming in 92, I just don't think that Francis is going to be able to pull it off. He is my sit of the week. Who is yours and how dare you?
I know. I love him. But how can we ignore what Bailey Ober's been getting into against Kansas City twice this year? They've absolutely dominated him. Now, I don't know that he's got some sort of mental block against them, but he is also coming off of a tough start. And as we always give the caveat on these sits, it's not so much that we're really actually sitting them in our 12s and our 15s and all that, but perhaps in 10s where you can be a little bit more cautious with things, and DFS. If you're going and setting a DraftKings lineup, we're saying don't use these guys. They might not be as cute as you think. So it's 2 starts ago that Ober struggled, by the way. It was 9 earned against Atlanta. Yes. He bounced back from it, but he's had 3 rough starts this year. That Atlanta start and 2 nightmares against KC. 8 earned on opening day, 6 earned on May 29th. So I just have a little bit of nerves with it because they've smoked him twice and maybe they just have his number, and he is a home run guy too. So if they clip a couple, I'm a little worried about Bailey Ober.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. By the way, DFS guys, you do what you want. We don't do any DFS here at Pitcher List. We have Star of the Week. I'm going with Bradford. Cody Bradford. I don't have
CB.
dyslexia. You have dyslexia. 38% rostered against the Angels. He has been essentially Bailey Ober from the left side with four seamers upstairs at 91 with good extension, and then a changeup down and a decent slider. Like, that's really nice against the Angels. I'm taking that all day. Who is your star of the week?
I like that Cody Bradford call, and I'm going with Albert Suarez. I'm keeping it simple. Pick on the White Sox where I can with one of the best teams in the league, increasing my win probability by a lot, but I'm not just fishing for a win here. This is a very good pitcher, and I really have been impressed with what Albert Suarez has been able to do this year. And I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, but I didn't learn until about mid-season that he was brothers with Robert Suarez.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
There you go.
There you go. Well, that's a reliever. Who's he? I love that pick for Albert Suarez.
One of the best
Go
relievers
get
in
him. Go get him
baseball.
for that White Sox game. And as we mentioned before, after the other one, then he has other matchups that are good after. Now, one game matchups were kind of hard because we didn't really have a great one, I think. Luis Ortiz versus DJ Hurst is just kind of Gavin Stone versus Matthew Boyd. That's fun. You know me and the boys, but that's the Dodgers on one side of and the Tigers. Sorry, the Guardians on another. And it just didn't seem to be fair in my view. Framber Valdez and Brandon Pfaadt. I think that's so clearly Valdez. But
he's fully died. The only reason I put that one on there is because Diamondbacks have been so good, but Valdez is so cooking right now.
And Pfaadt is not that. I don't trust Pfaadt at all personally. I know he had 10 strikeouts against the Dodgers, but the ratios weren't good, and it's just one of those games of, oh cool, you dotted four seamers enough and sweepers there, but also you did allow all those runs.
When his command is off, it's scary. So we landed on one.
Oh yeah, Logan Webb and Dylan Cease. Who is your guy?
So I went ahead and took Webb here. I took a little bit of the worst of it for a guy that I love, though. When I need him, he's going to step up and drop 7 scoreless for me. It will not be easy against that Padres lineup, but I know that when you're talking about the scoring the way we do too, I can get that extra volume there. And if Cease ends up going out early, even with the Ks that he can get, I at least have a chance here. Because you're saying a lot of these are one-sided. And I was like, yeah, they kind of are, but I'll go ahead and take the shot on Webb. I'm the one with the lead right now. It's only 1 point, but I figure I'll take a little bit. No, it's not that I'm like doing you a favor, and I'm not going to say, oh, I gave you that if I end up losing. I love Webb. I trust him. I do love Cease too, but give me Webb here against Dylan Cease. It won't be easy, but I think I can get the dub.
You know what's a really funny one that I didn't even bring in here?
Which one?
It's Jared Jones versus Patrick Corbin.
Oh my God. I'm just going to put it on our list just so that we remember that we considered it. If you want to take Corbin, we can do that. I mean, I think both sides are scary though. Right, because Corbin's Corbin, but then Jared Jones, you could get 3 innings too.
Oh man!
I'm not trying to convince you to take Corbin or anything. Let's stick with the game that we did, but that is funny. Fun.
I mean, the other one, of course, would be Bailey Ober. Actually, it looks like, by the way, I know we got a question about it, but Bailey Ober is going against Alec Marsh, not Cole Reagans. So
that's beautiful for Jack in the chat then.
Yeah, there you go. Reagans goes against Zebby Matthews, and that's the last one I'm going to ask you about very quickly as we round up here. Zebby Matthews, in or out after that last start?
I'm probably leaning out right now. I still like him. I'm intrigued, but who's he going against? I'm sorry. Is he getting KC?
He's going opposite Cole Reagans. Then he gets Cincinnati at home, so that's good. At Cleveland, and then the Marlins.
Sit here, pick back up. I am too afraid of the Royals. I know they're on a lose 6, but I'm worried about the bomb out. And then if he does well here, I'll jump back in for the final stretch with Zebby. I still like him for 25 though, too. I will say that.
Yeah, I think it was just a one bad day for Zebby.
Agreed.
I think he's great. I think that is, you can just kind of ignore that and treat it as if that start didn't happen for the Royals. So
and you know what? Hang on. You talked me into it. I'm going in for the whole.
Let's go.
Yep, let's go. I'm in all the way on Zeb.
Beautiful. Love it. That is it for today. Thank you all so much for joining us by the fire. Boy, this was a quick sparkle of a firecracker. Fire should not use firecrackers. Next time she probably logs in to make a longer fire.
We put
Sporer, what you got working on right now?
I got out of the park baseball stuff coming with the out of the park content coming down the stretch run over at Fangraphs. So we got the podcast 2-3x a week with the daily SP chart, trying to help people bring home these titles in their cash spots in their leagues. So here we go. 3 more weeks. And don't forget, nothing goes into October. The season actually ends before September's over. So it's a little like, I know sometimes people get in September like, oh, I got until early October. September 29th is the llast game of the year. We have about 3 weeks left, y'all. It's go time.
Wow. Oh man. 3 weeks. Jesus.
I know.
So it's under 4. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Yeah, we have at Pitcher List, we have a sister site called QB List. It is, I know, fantasy football season. However, we have this amazing site that's been running for over 5 years. Marco Enriquez is running it, who's a fantasy pro star. Go check it out for all your fantasy football stuff. You have an amazing community. Any subscriptions to PL Plus, get access to the Discord to that football site as well. So go check that out. But that is it for today. Thank you all so much for joining us by the fire. On behalf of Paul Sporer, my name is Nick Pollack, and we'll sit by the fire again with you next week.